Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new video about Alusus programming language. In this video, I'll be talking about routing in Alusus language and the web platform library which is used for building web applications. I've talked about web platform and Alusus in previous videos. You can visit those or also visit some of the articles that you can find on the official website for more information about web platform itself. In this video, I'm going to focus only on routing and how routing is done in Alusus language. We have already an article about routing, which you can see or find the link for in the official website. We can find it under the documentation. It's there. In short, routing is done in web platform through two main components, one being a stack and the other one is a switcher. The difference between these two is very obvious from this graph. Switcher lets you switch between different views, and by switching we mean you unload the current view and load a new view. And then stack, as the name implies, does stacking, which is viewing or stacking views on top of each other, allowing the user then to remove the top view to go back to the previous views, which can be used for things like pop-ups and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, these are the two main things. Web platform allows you to do whatever combination you want. So you can put a switcher inside another switcher, you can put a stack inside a switcher inside a stack. You can do whatever hierarchy you want according to your own needs for your own website or app. So here in this example, in this graph, for example, you can see there's a stack, and inside this stack, the first view is a switcher itself. So first view can switch between multiple subviews. In this, you can see the opposite. You have a switcher, and inside it, one of the views is itself a stack, which can have multiple subviews. And then in this one, you can see a switcher and another switcher inside it, and so you can do whatever combination you want. And this is the main component that's used to do the actual operation of switching between views. And then there are two other components that are derived from these two that links this operation, which is the main operation, to the URL in the browser. And these are called routing switcher and routing stack. So routing switcher, it's the same thing. It does switching between views, but instead of you having to manually call methods to do the switching, it allows you to define routes, and for each route you define what view is to be rendered. The route you define here is a regular expression, so you have the freedom to define it however you want. I'm gonna show some example before going to the routing stack. So we have some examples here. Let's take a look at the first example. I'm not going to go into the details. As I said, you can watch previous videos which you can see on this channel, or you can visit the official website to get links to the videos or to other articles for more information about web platform. You can also visit the official documentation of the library. So here I'm just going to focus on routing. The main view we have in this simple example is just a box. There's a menu at the top with 3 hyperlinks, and in each hyperlink there is a URL. So the first one is URL/1, then /2, and then /3, and then there is the actual switcher, which is going to be showing the views based on the current URL. And the switcher, you can see there's some styling, and then the routes that we have. It's very straightforward. You define route 1 is this scene, and route 2 is this other scene. So I'm using the same component for the scenes, just giving it different titles and different colors. And this is the background color, and this scene is defined here, and it takes a second argument as a background color, which it uses here as background color, and this allows us to see like the view to make it clear that we're switching views. And that's it. And let's run it first and see what we get. Not this one. I meant this one. Okay. So So you can see, as I said, three menu items at the top, and then the actual view. We're currently on scene 1. If we click on scene 2, we're switching to scene 2, scene 3. Very straightforward. And you can see every time, whenever I switch on one of them, the URL changes as expected. So before we move on, let's focus on one important aspect here, which is the hyperlink. So the hyperlink has the URL, obviously, and the text, but it also implements the on-click method. The reason it implements the method is because we don't want the default behavior of hyperlinks. The hyperlinks by default will cause the browser to reload the page on a new URL. And we don't want that. We just want to switch to a new URL. So instead of doing that, instead of allowing the browser to do what it does with hyperlinks, we override the on-click and tell it to use push location and give it the new location. So when you click 1, it pushes this location into the obviously the address bar and also into the history. And the same is done for the other two. Now, one might wonder then, why do we need hyperlink in the first place? Why don't we just make it a button? You obviously can make it a button, but the benefit of using hyperlink is that it actually renders a hyperlink in the browser in the HTML, and this is necessary for search engines, because search engines, when they crawl the page looking for hyperlinks to know what other pages exist on the site. So if you just use a button, search engines will not recognize that as a routing and will not find your sub pages. So that's why we use hyperlinks. But if you're not concerned about search engines for whatever reason, then you can just use a button. So the other thing I wanted to mention here is that we can, while currently the switching between scenes is instantaneous, you can actually apply some animations. So you can do set transition and tell it create, let's use a slide, switch our transition, and we can give it a duration of 0.5, vertical or horizontal 0. I want it horizontal, and then I'll give it 1, and then I'll just copy that and give it here 0. Now let's run it first, and then I'll explain what those parameters are. So now we're on scene 1. If we click on scene 2, it switches with a transition. It's doing the transition in a reverse order, so we have to fix that. And the fix is by changing this parameter. So first parameter is the duration we want for the transition. Second parameter is whether we want it vertical or horizontal. 0 means horizontal. Third parameter is the direction of the transition. So I have it reversed. We either have like 0 or 1. You give it like true or false. So I'm gonna give it 0 here and 1 here, which means that moving the reason we have two we create two separate transitions is because we don't want to use the same. We don't necessarily want to use the same transition from like going from a lower scene to a higher scene versus the opposite. So in this case, I'm telling it if you're moving from a lower scene to a higher scene, which is like, for example, scene 1 to scene 2, or scene 2 to scene 3, or scene 1 to scene 3, then use that first transition. If you're doing the opposite, then use the second transition. And this allows us to, let's run it again. This allows us to, when we go from scene 1 to scene 2, we go in this direction, and then the opposite is as the user would expect. So if I just use 0 for both of them, you'll always just be moving in the same direction regardless of what scene you click first. So 1, 2, every time you just switch in the same direction. So that's basically how transitions work. You can use different transitions. So let's try, for example, fade transition. And with fade, you just need to give it a duration. let's give it a longer duration just so it's more obvious. And let's try again. Scene 1, scene 2, you can see the transition now is just a fade operation. Let's undo that. Let's actually undo all this. Don't need that. Okay, now let's go back to the article and take a look at the stack, routing stack. So routing stack is very similar. It's you instantiate a routing stack, you define 2 routes, and for each route you have multiple, like you define multiple routes, and for each route you define the path or the URL to match, and then the view to be returned when that URL is matched. One main difference between the way stack works versus switcher is the way matching the URL happens. So in the switcher loops on all the routes looking for a route that matches the current address in the address bar. So it loops through this. When it finds the first match, it takes that and then it stops. So if we're at URL/2, then it loops, tries this one, doesn't match, tries the second one, it matches, returns this, and stops the loop. Stack works the other way around. So instead of looping looking for a match, it actually loops looking for a no match. So it looks for the first one. If there's a match, it returns the view, it renders that view and continues. Tries the second one. If there's still a match, renders the second one on top of the first one, and so on until it reaches a route that doesn't match the current address, and then it stops there. The reason is obvious, because in a stack you want the views to be stacked on top of each other, and this is important because you want to be able to the user want to be able to go back and remove the top view and having the previous view underneath it. So that's the main difference between the two. So you can see here in this example, the first route is /1, the second route is /1/edit. So in a stack, you have to make sure that every route matches everything above it, all the previous routes. Otherwise, that route will never be rendered. Okay, so given this, we can go back to our test. Let's look at test 2, which includes a stack. So you can see here, we defined a stack scene, which is a component. Again, you can visit other documentation to know how components are built, but here the components has a view. The view of this component is a routing stack. And the stack here is very similar. We define style, we define transitions, and then we define the routes. So the first route is 3, and the second route is 3/sub. And the first route is seen with a link, and it has the link that the user goes to is /3/sub. So basically, it's a scene that allows you to click on a link to go to the sub view or sub route. That's basically our stack, and then the rest is very similar to the previous example. Everything is the same except that the third route is a stack scene instead of the regular scene. So let's run this and see what happens. Let's go back here, reload. Very similar, scene 1, scene 2. Scene 3 now has a subscene. So if I click on subscene, you can see this is the subscene that happened or appeared up on top of the 3 scene. Now if I go to scene 2, you just go directly, like the whole scene 3 would, the entire stack goes away, and then we're back to scene 2. So here, currently, the only scene we have in memory is scene 2. When I click here, now scene 3 is in memory. When I click on subscene, now scene 3 and the subscene are both in memory on top of each other. The moment I click on anything else, both of them gets thrown in the garbage, and then you have only scene 1 visible. Very, very clear, very straightforward. Now we can also do the opposite, which is if we look at example 3, we have the same thing, the scene with the link. The main scene here is a routing stack. So the main scene is a stack, and inside the stack there is a switcher. So if we look at the stack, where is it? So this is our stack. Same thing, style, transition, and then we have a route. And inside the route here, this is our scene. This entire thing is our scene. And then on the second route is the subscene that appears on top of them. So so here, the first route, you can see in the URL we're matching 1, 2, and 3 because we have a subscene, and we have a switcher basically, and we want to make sure we can match all of these because all of these are inside the stack. So it's very clear, routing switcher here, doing the same thing as we did before with links, and then the second one matches 1, 2, 3, and then /sub. So any of them /sub will match this and show the subscene. So let's run this and see what it looks like. Okay. So you can see, and when we click on it, you get the subscene on top of everything, and you can go back, subscene, and that's it. So that's it. There you have it. It's routing in web platform analysis. Very simple, very straightforward. I'll keep a link to the article and to this examples in this description of this video. And with this, I end this video. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for future videos, and have a good day.